really getting information for the different functions to do a better job, but also finance to really coordinate, understand what's going on in those functions. So hopefully this will be a little interesting, because it is another dimension to this notion of having all the stuff in a cloud, and it really, how do we break down every last barrier so all the different parts of finance have this seamless information experience, a single source of truth, accuracy, but very importantly, not having to go through a bunch of different screens and spend a lot of time trying to piece all this stuff together. And hopefully get rid of all the spreadsheets and the shadow systems that we've created. And then, of course, the cloud, we can constantly get that refreshed, get new updates and that sort of thing, so that we can always stay current and agile and be able to truly react and be a better business partner in this exponential kind of economy that we're moving to. So let me introduce these four panelists at Oracle. First is Jeff Jacoby, who's Master Principal Consultant for us, and Rondi Ng, who is the Senior Vice President for Applications. He has our financials, core financials, as well as he owns all of our customer experience stuff. We have Matt Bradley, who is Senior Vice President for our EPM, Enterprise Performance Management, Product Development. And then Michael Gobbo, who is our another Master Principal Consultant that works very closely with Jeff. And so they will get into how this all works. I think, Jeff, you're going to lead the panel, come with some of the questions, and hopefully you'll find this interesting. It may be a bit different than some of the things you've learned while you're here at this session.
Perfect.
Okay?
Let's give a big hand to Mr. Jeff Henley.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a really exciting session.
Well, hold on. So,
Michael, no demos today.
Wait. I thought I was going to actually demonstrate.
Please.
Was that what that call
Michael,
was about yesterday?
I said no demo. Okay, time permitting, you're excited about the technology.
There's some really cool stuff that I want to show.
They can go to the Innovation Showcase.
You just said I can demonstrate pretty well.
Please, just take a seat, Michael.
I'll be back, guys.
I said we're going to have an open conversation with the heads of development to discuss where we are, where we're going with this whole digital finance revolution. Guys, what an honor it is to share the stage with all of you today. And Jeff Henley, every time I see Jeff, I think back to my first job offer at Oracle 12 years ago. It's kind of funny. Actually, I thought I was going to take Jeff's job as the chairman. We share the same first name and a love for the office of the CFO. And I got my offer letter, and it said chairman on it. So I was excited. Showed up for the first day at work. Somebody quickly pointed out that chairman was actually two words. I was the chairman, literally in charge of seating, working for facilities. But I wasn't discouraged, okay? As you can see, I've leveraged some of my background setting up these nice Naugahyde chairs for today's session. But I wasn't discouraged. I kept working hard, worked my way into working with people like Michael, Rondi, and Matt, and it's been exciting. And we're here as part of this new digital finance revolution. And what does all that mean? People running around in the tricorn hats, Ben Franklin, last night it was great. So I went to Webster's and I looked it up. And Webster's definition, the one that I liked, was a revolution is a material change in the way that we live and work, right? And Oracle Cloud for Finance really holds that vision and that dream out for us. And that's really what today's session is all about. Now, if you were here for the day one keynote, you heard Mark Hurd talk about all of these reasons for Oracle Cloud, and it was great to get his perspective. He said, if I were to summarize it, if you don't do it for any other reason, do it for less cost, right? Which is great. And we hear about innovation and all these broad, high-level topics. But today, let's look at that from a different perspective. Let's dive into that from the development perspective, from Rondi and Matt. When we hear things like rapid innovation in the cloud. Rondi, who's been here for 26 years, you built and supported our on-premise solutions, right? And now building what we have in the cloud. Could you provide some specifics for us on what rapid innovation really means today in the cloud versus what we did in the on-prem world?
Absolutely. So sometimes you have to think back about how we have been delivering software over the years. When you look at kind of the typical on-premise customer, the implementation may take you 18, 24 months. And usually you want to stay there, get stable, and you don't want to touch it until somebody calls you from Oracle saying that, hey, you're running out of support. So it's a lifespan, average 6, 8, sometimes 10 years. So think about over kind of that long period of time, if you need something because of a critical business change, you do what? You customize the software, you buy more software, and of course, kind of the more complex that becomes, the less likely that you want to move it because the risk, the cost, and all the complexity involved in there. Now, moving to cloud is completely different. It's all about agile. It's all about kind of agile adoption, agile updates, and agile innovations. So a lot of things that we do is all about actually providing the value in as soon as we can actually get that out to the customer. So when you look back about some of the ways that we've been delivering the software on premise, good luck that actually you get an enhancement request that you can actually deploy within a few years. You vote in OAUG, and sometimes it got accepted as one of the top 10. And then at the end of the day, you may actually get a return from a new release, maybe 18, 24 months later. Then you think about it, I don't want to be first on to get on that release. I'll wait for another 2 years, 3 years. That lifespan is really, really ridiculous. Now, when we think about cloud, now we are doing updates much more frequently. We do about 2 to 3 releases a year. Just to give you a data point, in the past 12 months, just last year alone, we introduced about 400 new capabilities in the cloud ERP solution. Many new products, about a dozen of them. And not only that, so when you think about kind of all these, we actually have an architecture that actually get you all the behavior that you need in configuration of the software. You no longer customize it. So what that means is the configuration is something that will be able to move you from release to release in a very, very confident manner. So it's no longer that you have to actually go through months and months of testing. We actually release the software, people adopt it, and generally, they test it for a few weeks, everything's fine. They tell us that, hey, I want to kind of get into production. You have the flexibility to do that. So not only we actually deliver a lot of capabilities, that's one thing that we do in development is, in my organization, I earmarked about 40% of our R&D on specific things that our customers needed in their implementation or feedback from the live customers. So these are directly relevant to the customers deploying or working on the cloud. So things that you ask for, you no longer have to wait for a couple of years to get that, or maybe years to get that. You get that in months. So the kind of speed, the kind of pace of innovation is unprecedented. Now, of course, we have a lot of things that we keep track of in terms of making sure that people have the latest and greatest user experience standard, latest and greatest device form factor support, the latest technologies that you have heard earlier that I'm going to get into a little bit later on is that like a blockchain, latest kind of adaptive intelligence, machine learnings, and so on. So we truly believe that cloud is the only way that we can deliver the highest quality as well as the latest and greatest value to our customer, and customers will be able to adopt immediately.
Awesome. Thank you, Rodney. So rapid innovation, and in order to really be revolutionary, we need to have this comprehensive set of capabilities for the office of the CFO. So that really entails that we are able to answer the mail literally on any task for any persona in that office. And Matt, I know you and the team have been working very hard to fill out our portfolio. We went to the cloud on February 14th, 2014 for EPM, which I call Valentine's Day for planning lovers. It was a big event. We were excited. I'm an old planning guy. It was remarkable. And in the short span of now 3 years, delivering not only new innovation within those products, but can you share with our attendees some of the other areas where you guys have been focused in what you're delivering?
Sure, absolutely. So we did start with planning. That was the one that was most obvious to move to the cloud first. But it's planning, it's budgeting, it's forecasting, strategic modeling. It's a broad range of capabilities from that standpoint looking forward. But we also then have added into that, and we encourage customers to really view EPM in a much broader context. Looking at the close and consolidation aspects of it, the more historical nature of things, to understand where you've been, so that can then feed into the planning as to where you want to go. And through that process, looking at the holistically, looking at account reconciliations, looking at tax provisioning and reporting, looking at country-by-country reporting from a tax standpoint, looking at newer ways of management reporting that involves narrative discussion of what the numbers mean to really explain that to the stakeholders. So EPM is much broader than just the traditional budgeting and planning and consolidation. Is this holistic approach of all aspects of finance to really make it goes back to what Yuri was talking about. How can we get that alignment? How can we get everybody on the same page that we can make these decisions, be much more agile, and really focus and really drive things forward? So our goal is to really round off all features of finance from a management decision-making standpoint and give solutions across that perspective.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. So rapid innovation, this broad and growing portfolio of capabilities, some driven by regulatory requirements, as you mentioned, like country by country and so on. Another top-of-mind issue for a lot of people from the Office of the CFO, and I think of myself personally, I am a recovering accountant, and risk is something that pops up, and I think of security, right? I mean, high-risk behavior for me would be running on a wet pool deck with scissors, right? I just don't like to take risks. Now, a couple of years ago, talking to our customers, security was top of mind, right? And I know we've had a lot of sessions on that. People are more comfortable. I think according to Mark, we have 5,000 customers in the cloud. So could you dive a little deeper on security for us, Rondi, and give your perspective on that?
Absolutely. So security is definitely our DNA. It's basically the top of mind, everything that we do within Oracle in development, security overrides everything. So it's the DNA, it's the core competency that we have. Now, when you look at security discussion with customers, generally the discussion is about, hey, is your wall high enough? Is it higher than mine? Okay. Now, I'll give you a data point. Once I talked to our chief corporate security architect, and he told me that on the average, an enterprise customer has to deploy about 35 plus security products, different kinds of technology that you as maybe an IT department have to integrate everything together. Now think about kind of the security threats that people have to deal with. Think about the cost of complexity integration. Think about kind of all the updates that you need to maintain that. So all of those things that you as a company need to invest in to make that wall high enough is a daunting task. Versus kind of like in the Oracle case, frankly, that is kind of like our core job. And of course, kind of like we keep track of all the latest security threats. And frankly, like when you heard from Mark Hurd, this is something that you probably don't even know that a lot of kind of the hackers probably are already somewhere in your network. They were just not pulling the trigger. So how do you actually make sure that our customers get the latest and greatest security? Now, this is kind of like something that I would like to make sure that everyone also understands, getting into a little bit of the technology there. Now, one thing that we do a little bit differently from some of the other cloud vendors, especially in the ERP space, is we try to get every single client's database to be completely autonomous, separated from the other folks, meaning how your other tenants in the same data center. So you don't actually share people with kind of the same database, use application partitioning to get kind of data from one customer to another customer. So you have a completely virtualized tenant, meaning kind of from the database, from the middleware, the applications is an identity that is only you. So the only thing that you potentially would share with your neighbors would be the physical hardware of the data center itself. So it's very secure. Now, the other thing there is we do encryption everywhere. We encrypt the data over the wire, at rest in the database, even in backups. And not only that, the encryption key that we use for encrypting the database and everything is not held by Oracle personnel, meaning you as a customer, you control the key. So if you don't allow us to look at the data, you absolutely will not actually have any way that Oracle will be able to look at your private data at all. So you have to give us the authorization, give us the key access with kind of your approval chain before we actually can look at your data. So a lot of these kind of policies and things that we do is really architected from the ground up in the security at the Microsoft processor level to the hardware itself, to the data center design, all the way to the database, the middleware, and all the way to applications to cloud operational design. Everything is architected end-to-end together. So this is something that's really, really different from some of the other vendors out there. Now, of course, there are customers with a lot of different data residency requirements. If you happen to be operating in a country that says, absolutely, my data has to reside in my country, we have invested over 19 data centers worldwide. Now, in a very, very extreme case that because of regulatory or other stringent reasons that you absolutely must have the data within your premise, we even actually have an advanced option to take the entire Oracle public cloud into a black box and physically install in your data center. And then, of course, the management of the software and the hardware will be done by Oracle personnel, just like the policy that we follow in the public cloud. But for those extreme cases, you are in a specialized industry like financial services, that's an option for you to pursue as well.
Thank you, Randy. So rapid innovation, a broad set of capabilities that's growing by the day, by the release, very secure. And all that complexity, though, Matt, I mean, it's almost an embarrassment of riches how much we have, okay, within the solution set, right? Because I'm out demonstrating this every day, and it is mind-boggling the amount of complex business issues we're solving with it. But could you speak a little bit around the vision that we have with the cloud to provide a better, more seamless, more simplistic user experience, which is key?
It's very, very key, yeah. I mean, as a developer, we are definitely guilty of showing off how smart we are by shoving every feature into every interface that we have. And we've been doing that for 15 years on the on-premise world, and we market that as sophisticated. What we found on the cloud, we took a step back and really looked at the personas. Who are the individuals working and operating with the software? And what is important for them? And then tried to distill down the feature function that we have to the 80% that they use, rather than the 100% that we've developed. And then basically hide that other 20% in options so that we can have a much more simplified interface, but it's not a dumbed down interface. You know, there's a difference between the two. We still want to give you the level of sophistication and complexity that's required in order to work and operate in finance, but it is to make sure that for the majority of your users, you are analytically driven in terms of the interface will tell you what you should be doing next in terms of providing graphs and charts and interactions that really guide your experience through the interface. And we spent the time and energy really looking at who's operating the software and what's important for them. And hopefully, we'll get Mike on stage, maybe, and maybe he can demo some of the new interfaces that we have.
Matt is going off script.
I'm going off script, I know.
From demoing.
I like his idea better.
Michael, you're getting a little, I see you fidgeting over here.
Can I?
Hold on, let me see what we've got. All right, 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Can you do something in 5 minutes? Don't leave the stage. Do not, Michael?
I have to, though. I have to. This is a very interactive session, guys. Come on. It's all right. Okay.
5 minutes, Michael.
All right. Thanks. Welcome. Appreciate finally get the opportunity to talk to you guys. This is fantastic. So what I want to show you is really I want to talk about 4 things, guys. And the first thing is that it's beautifully simple. I mean, what you see here is just absolutely phenomenal. It's very easy to use, very intuitive, low learning curve, high user adoption. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, and we've been talking about this, what we offer in the cloud is distinctly unified. Distinctly unified. And what that means is we cover all major business processes of an organization. So whether it be sales-related, marketing, service, commerce, HR components, payroll, talent, performance review, all of the supply chain stuff, distribution, manufacturing, accounting, finance, so distinctly unified. I'm getting kind of dizzy going around this much. I better stop after last night. Third thing, if I slur, by the way, let me know. So after the 7th bourbon, I said, I think I got a presentation tomorrow. I got to stop this. So the third thing is that the information we're providing to you is instantaneously insightful. So Yuri talked about this. We're moving in that direction. You need information that is instantaneously insightful. You don't want to wait for data that's been placed in a data warehouse. It's become stale. So we're able to provide you this information very quickly, in real time. And then the last one is uniquely complete. And so Jeff touched upon this a little bit, and it's really about providing every person in the office of the CFO to do any task. Of course, segregation of duties are always in effect. And really so about solving any pain point of the office of the CFO. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me actually spend the next I'll just say 5 minutes. 5 minutes getting you acquainted with this application here. So the first thing is I would have logged in as myself, but after yesterday, maybe you guys would have gotten queasy. So I logged in as Amy Marley instead. And this is a true story. So I was outside showing a customer this, and the customer said, hey, it looks like Amy, she needs to do her eyebrows. So, but the funny thing about that is really not that, is she kind of looks like my mom. So how do you reply to that? I don't know. So anyways, and actually this is a true story. So my parents are in Brazil right now, sorry. My parents are in Brazil, and they're with my uncle and my aunt and my cousin. And so we do FaceTime, every weekend. And so we're FaceTiming, and so I can see the entire family, my uncle, my aunt, my mom, my dad, my cousin. And so my cousin, as we were talking, my cousin said, hey, look at Chia, and she, in Portuguese, look at her eyebrows. I go, what? She had them done, so anyway, so she looks wonderful anyways, but she looks fantastic now that she did her eyebrows. So anyway, so what I want to do is, I log in as Amy Marlin, and so this is a unified experience. And so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and tap Amy. Don't hit her too hard, though. If you hit her too hard, she gets a black eye. This is no joke. So if you hit her in the eye, she gets a black eye. So it takes about 3 days to go back to the normal photo. So anyway, so now you have Amy Marlin. It tells you information about Amy. It's fantastic, address and what her interests are and those sorts of things. And then what I want to do is I want to take a look at their employment information. And so true story, we use this at Oracle. And so mine kind of looks like this. It has a little bit more boxes, but I've been here at 10 years. It shows when I started. I've already had 5 managers. It's not Oracle. It's me. I'm hard to manage, but no worries. And then, so Amy has promotions. In my case, it's demotions. So in any case, and then so if you forget what your skill sets are, you have readily accessible that view as well. And so you have skills and qualifications. And for the longest time, again, we use this at Oracle. For the longest time, I thought this screen had a bug. And so every time I went into it, it was blank. I'm like, what? So I have those skills. So now I'm kidding. What happened was I forgot to enter my skills, so that's why it was blank. But the purpose of that is so that other folks in the organization can look and find the necessary skills to, hey, we want to do this special project or whatever. So that's Amy. So let's go back to the very top here, the very front page. So if you don't mind, click the hamburger. I know you're texting somebody. You're saying how fantastic this is right at the very top. Okay, well, let me do it for you. It's all right. I know you're nervous. I'm nervous, too. That's the hamburger. And by the way, we have McDonald's as a client. So I keep hitting this thing. So this is the navigator. The navigator is everything that's been granted to you from a security perspective. All the roles, responsibilities, privileges. And it could be a lot of things, right? But what's fantastic is that you're able to tailor the environment and specify, well, I know I have access to a lot of things, but what are the things I access the most? Well, it's right here. You can personalize that. And you can put, actually, let's do this. Go ahead and tap the payables. Your fingers are cold. I got it. There it is. And so you can put them in subgroups if you want, or make them single launchable. It's fantastic. Now, at the very top is what we call the universal toolbar. Guess what? It's universal, which means that you have access to that very top bar no matter where you are. So it doesn't matter if you're in HR or sales or service. That is consistent. That allows you to have access to the information at your fingertips. So you're able to put favorites. So in case you're down on several screens and you want to launch to GL, one of my favorite modules, you can do that. Now the other thing too is we have alerts. And alerts are workflow related, okay? And we have hundreds and hundreds of pre-seeded workflow. And so your job as a customer is to decide which workflows do you want to use, what is the business condition by which to raise this workflow, and then whom should be included in that workflow. Most software solutions have workflow. So what is different about ours? Here it is. So when you go into this notification, what we provide to you is not just that, hey, Michael submitted, let's do the example of T&E as an example. Not only that, Michael submitted a T&E for this event, but there's other information. So my boss is going to get a notification, and he's going to then also understand how it's going to navigate from a workflow perspective. Oh, he submitted a large expense report, so therefore, not only my boss needs to approve, my boss's boss and boss's boss need to approve because of the dollar amount. As well as we provide additional pieces of information. So what were previous like transactions that I'm submitting? Are there any corporate violations relative to this? As well as maybe, like, say, in this case, I got a cash advance. I invested it, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. So I got a cash advance of $500. And so if my boss is about to approve this, I say, wait a minute. he has a $500 cash advance. I might want to apply this to this, this existing T&E expense report before I, move on. So that gives that information all at your fingertips, and that's relative to any notification. So it's not about just, do you want to approve this, reject it, be able to ad hoc and move it around in a different manner, but it's also the amount of richness that is contained in that notification. Now, what's great about this one is most of us here, I believe, are accountants and finance folks, most, right? Now, Rondi and Matt, they're developers, but they've been providing solutions for us for over 20 years. They started around when they were 7, but anyways, they're provided fantastic information. And so prior to this, what did you have to do when you entered month-end close? You had to say, oh gosh, there's all these exceptions in payables, so I have to go to the payables module and figure out all the exceptions and deal with it, run reports, and do the same thing in receivables and assets and all those sorts of things. I keep moving too much. And a watch list are basically all the exceptions relative to your roles and responsibilities that have been granted to you that is right here, and you can identify them and deal with them as you progress through the period. You don't have to wait until month-end close. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of watch lists already active, ready to go that you can use. You can turn them on, turn them off, as well as create your own. Create your own, which is fantastic. Okay, now, true story. So I showed you a little bit of this integration with HR. And so I got an email notification. So we're fully paperless at Oracle. And so I haven't read the content. I got an email notification from HR. Haven't read the content, but I just quickly opened it. It was pink. I'm kind of nervous. I don't know. So anyway, so I saw security actually hanging out outside. So I'm trying to run away from them. So let's talk about Amy real quick. So this horizontal bar here is where she's in the cloud is an integral part of our solution. It's the centerpiece of our solution. It's basically having instant messaging capability embedded in our solution, allowing you to capture meaningful and contextual dialogue on a transaction, on a business event. You're closing the books is a business event. You're doing a performance review is a business event, as well as capture meaningful and contextual dialogue on a report. Imagine that. You're looking at a report, and I see a number saying, hey, Jeff, can you explain this real quick? And then he does his analysis, attaches the analysis to that, and that lives with that report, that transaction, that business event for as long as you want. Now, these transactions, these conversations, I should say, are, you can have a public conversation, which means anybody in the organization can see it. You can have an explicit conversation, which means I invite you, and we're the only 3 that can see this, as well as we can actually invite external folks as well. So you have a question about an AP or an invoice, and traditionally, what would you do? You would send an email, you call, and you have all this dialogue happening against this invoice, and you have no idea, and everybody else doesn't have an idea of what's going on. And so you're able to harness that conversation, and it's automatically connected to that transaction. So take a look at this. So we have purchase requisitions as an example, and so as you have these conversations, it automatically categorizes them in larger buckets like purchase recs, payable invoices, AR, assets, whatever the case is. So let's go ahead really quick into purchase recs. So there's a couple here. I can look at my menu and go to maybe flagged items as an example. So let's go to flags. So you can actually flag a conversation. I want you to specifically look at this, okay? I know. I'm abrasive. Yeah, my kids run away from me too. I don't understand it anymore. So here in this case, what I want to look at is an example of where I'm having a conversation that I've invited external parties. And so what happens is, this is the thread of that conversation. It might be related to a transaction or whatever. But what's nice about it is, as you're going to respond to something, there's a nice purple ribbon that says, oh, wait a minute, be very careful what you say, because somebody external is actually listening or part of the conversation as well. All right, so last thing. This is about instantaneously insightful information, and this actually makes me want to be an accounts payable manager. No joke. So whoever is a existing customer, I'm applying. And so imagine this. So I'm a payables person, and I go into this particular work area, and I go, this is fantastic. I mean, who doesn't want to go show up to work? Look at this. You got these great, fantastic graphs, and you can interact with them and say, you know what, I only want to focus on unpaid invoices, so I'm like unhighlighting specific areas. The information down below is contextual to what I've selected on the top. I can further filter, of course, right? We don't want to stop you there. We want to empower you as much as possible. I can drag and drop this information if I want. And so that's an example of that. And so this is related to a knowledge worker, somebody who's responsible for a particular area, and what do we give you to do your job faster, better, those sorts of things, and that's one example. Now, the reality is, you know, you got executives that want information. Ron is one of them, and Matt Bradley's another one. And so when he walks to his desktop, he wants to have insightful information. So we provide fantastic analytics. And of course, these analytics, you know, you can drag and drop, and you can twist and turn this information. So if I, you know, twist it, expand it, those sorts of things. So it's, you know, real nice to navigate. I can drill into this information, right? We're moving towards a virtual close. You already talked about this. I don't want to steal the thunder from Ronnie, but he's going to talk a little bit about that as well. So AR, so at the meantime, we're going to drill into AR reconciliation between the GL. And so the AR has some transactions, the GL has certain transactions, there's a timing difference. What is the difference? So we tell you what that is in aggregate form, and then you can drill into the details. And then if you want to get a visual depiction of your organization, you certainly could do that, right? So here, I got all these organizations, however it's laid out. I notice that Japan is not doing so well. They're not closed yet or whatever it is. And so I can zoom in. I can have a meaningful conversation about that. And in this case, they're already talking. So I'm kind of worried, hey, why is Japan not done? Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. Done. All right, perfect. I understand what's going on. And the last thing is this, because I know Jeff is getting kind of nervous here. But so we've done a survey with our customers. Informal, but we've done a survey. And what we found out is our customers are actually kind of happy. Not just, you know, customer satisfaction, but they're just generally happy. They're walking down the street hugging people. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it's part of our software. And really what it is our customers are focusing on what they were meant to do, as opposed to collating data, reconciling data, formatting data. They're actually doing analysis and interacting with their decision makers. And so we know that we can't sustain happiness all the time. You know, we can, you know, it's difficult. But we have other ways to kind of burst it up. And so, you know, you show up to work on Monday because you're excited. Oh, I can't wait to get to work because I get to, you know, do what I was hired to do. And so Monday you're happy, Tuesday you're happy, Wednesday you're kind of feeling melancholy, kind of feeling down. But the nice thing is that we can brighten up your day through what we call a sunburst. And so we can show you information that is meaningful, amplify the possible areas of concern. In this case, what it looks like, you know, EMEA is kind of problematic. I want to drill down into EMEA, and specifically Africa is really the problem. And pharma, the LOB, the line of business, is really the area. And so when we drill down to these details, we say, gosh, okay, looks like we missed our forecast by 20%. That's pretty significant. But because this is a fully unified environment, and I go into this HCM, or I'm sorry, supply chain, a little bit of bourbon there, supply chain components, then we discovered the reason we were off is because there was a severe weather happening in South Africa. So we were able to ship our products. We didn't lose any of our products. They're still sitting in the warehouse, thank goodness. We weren't able to ship. Title didn't transfer. We didn't recognize revenue. But the good news is next month is going to be phenomenal. Thank you.
All right. Let's give it up for Michael. Thank you, Michael. You know, Jeff was talking about our ability to take all these capabilities, now have this more seamless, unified experience. And that's something that's really amazing about the cloud. If you look at Oracle's history since I've been here over the last 12 years as a application portfolio company making acquisitions of other technologies and trying to bring those together and build integrations and so on. And now with the cloud, the ability to have what Michael just demonstrated, this seamless experience. But that isn't a new thought. I think back to 2007 when we acquired Hyperion, the industry leader in what's called enterprise performance management. We'd been competing at Oracle against Hyperion, not very successfully as the industry leader. They had an enormous amount of capabilities. I remember the day the acquisition was announced, I called Michael up. I was excited, right? We celebrated. And of course, Matt has been with us since the beginning. But this idea of bringing this together, it started back then, Matt. Maybe you could share with us that you've always had an eye towards the future of this unification, and work began back in 2007 in preparation for where we're at today with this revolution.
Sure, sure. So, you know, as coming to Oracle from Hyperion, I mean, we spent many years at Hyperion depositioning Oracle as a competitor, as to how irrelevant ERP was and how important EPM was. You know, moving into Oracle, though, the bringing the two elements together was extremely important for, obviously, for finance. You know, it starts off with just standard integration. How can we share data? How can we move balances between the ERP into EPM, or for that matter, across the rest of the transactional systems? But as you work on it more, it gets into interesting use cases where I may have a heavily consolidated number in EPM, but I want to drill back to the details and actually see where those journals have come from. And that's where we start to cooperate and work with Randy and his team to bring those two elements together. So we can actually move from a highly consolidated number down to the detailed balances, sharing a common experience from a user interface as Micah displayed. So it's really the ability to bring these things together, because EPM works at an aggregate level and it works on top of those details. We need the details from the ERP, and the ability to bring those two elements together in order to really affect it makes it extremely powerful. And then the other piece that we've done, which is broader than just data, metadata sharing or user experience sharing, it's really looking at the process and really looking at the start to finish of, say, of close. When do we close the ledger? When do we develop the flash reports? When do they feed into consolidation? What is all the activity that occurs between those two pieces, all the way out through to the final disclosures? And making sure we've got a system in place that you've got full visibility across that, across these various domains. So we've done a lot of work in terms of the process integration in order to pull those particular elements together that really benefits organizations, where you can bring these two elements together as complementary, as opposed to being an opposites, where I can do some of these activity in the transactional system, or I can do some of these activity in the EPM system. It's really about how we can bring those two elements together that works in harmony across the organization, that we spent the last, since the acquisition, really trying to bring those together. And obviously it's been manifest in the cloud, where we've got that clean slate and really to drive that forward.
Thank you, Matt. Better together, right? I think of the old Reese's peanut butter ad, right? Peanut butter and chocolate, right? You have your EPM in my ERP kind of thought, right? And at that same time, 2007, we made the acquisition. Matt, you were building out the integrations, that seamless experience. But Rhonda, you were in the midst of really building out what became our cloud ERP set of capabilities, that next generation, looking at the Hyperion intellectual property as well as other components within the suite. So could you take us through what you were thinking when we acquired Hyperion, and what did you want to leverage from the outset, really, to build our cloud product?
Sure, absolutely. So this is actually one of the best acquisitions that Oracle, especially in the ERP space, that we have ever done. And frankly, when we were competing, Oracle was looking into building some sort of a memory type reporting capabilities within our ERP. So in particular, when you look at kind of some of the on-premise applications, we are really great in terms of processing a high volume of transactions, but when it comes down to reporting, a lot of our customers actually had to rely on technologies like Hyperion to finish the job. So we were thinking, hey, why would we not be able to actually bring all these technologies together so we can actually just let our customers run all the day-to-day reporting, slice and dice and drill down to the data any day of the month, rather than having to wait for days, sometimes weeks, to get your month-end close, to get your corporate consolidation view. And that's why when we first started the acquisition, first thing that we talked to Matt's team about was, hey, God, let me get your really proven multidimensional engine, which is called F-Space. Proven, many of you probably are using that as well as a separate reporting environment. But is that, hey, let's take the technology and then embed it directly in our core finance, in the general ledger. So we will be able to do fast transaction processing. We can slice and dice all the data, so your finance guys have the information by the minute. You'll be able to drill down from any top level down to the lowest level. You can have as many hierarchies as you want, doing your what-if analysis, drilling all the way down to the transactions. That's kind of what actually we did over the past many, many years. And it was a very, very difficult job. You guys kind of like want to know about the technology behind it, I'll be more than happy to discuss with you. But it was a very complicated job. It was only something that actually, when the two companies started working together, that we were able to bring the IP to make that happen. Now, not only actually we took that technology and do it with the general ledger of the core finance, which kind of, by the way, is the #1 thing that people like about our finance cloud. We also took the same technology and embedded in many other applications area. For example, in project portfolio management, you want to see kind of like a full project performance reporting, slice and dice, you got the same technology there. You want to see territory, sales performance, you can do the same thing. Again, it's the same technology behind the scene. So we're leveraging a lot of these IPs that we've acquired. So that's why kind of you may have heard about the term fusion. The whole concept of bringing the best together, not just kind of like Hyperion many times from E-Business Suite, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards. We took the best of all the pieces. The Hyperion definitely has made the biggest impact in the finance world.
Thank you, Rondi. So I think of what you're really sharing. It's exponential. It's 1 + 1 = 3, right? It's something that, Matt, that I hear you share. And honestly, I'm just going to level with everyone. I'm getting nervous when I see Michael with that. Michael, don't leave the stage. Can you show this working together in the context of the office of the CFO? Maybe the period close. Do not leave the stage 3 minutes. Can you do it?
Three? Yeah, 3.
3 minutes.
Okay.
Michael, do not leave the stage.
Oh, gosh. God.
Speaking of stage,
Speaking of
last
stage,
night at the Goo.
yes, that was a fantastic experience. So, you know, what's great is that after my 7th bourbon, I remember I had to do this. I stopped. So this is fantastic. So if I slur again, let me know. I'll just repeat it. I'll repeat whatever I said I should have said. So actually, a quick story before I get started. You know, everybody has, like, you know, traditions, especially during the holiday season. And so we usually, at our family, we usually go to my brother's house. He cooks a great meal on, you know, Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day, you know, we usually open up gifts and stuff. So we arrive at my brother's house. We have a great feast and drinks and all that stuff. We go to sleep. And then the kids wake up super early, because they're excited, right? They want to open up the gifts. So I'm sleeping. My kids run in the room. Dad, come on, it's time. I go, like, what's going on? And this has happened like in the last 3 years. So it's, you know, tradition is kind of building up. So they wake me up and say, it's time. I go, okay. So they start walking. I'm following, right? And then my son turns around and goes, Dad, don't be silly. Get your iPad. I go, what are you talking about? We're going to open gifts. No. Give us a period close demonstration. They want to see this stuff. I'm not kidding. They love this stuff. So let's go get started because it's just fantastic. So I demo to my kids. They love it. So anyways, it's great stuff. Okay, so one of the things from a period close perspective is there's really 3 elements to it, right? So there's the mechanics piece of it. You know, do these things. There's certainly the analytics piece, right? Hey, now that I'm doing these things, I got to analyze information. And once you analyze it, then you feel comfortable, and then you do reporting, right? So let's kind of walk through those various steps. And you know, mind you, yeah, of course we got great analytics to help drive this process, but don't forget, guys, don't forget the almighty watch list power. So you've been using the watch list all along, taking care of issues, all these exceptions that are happening during the month, all right here, you're able to do. And so when you get to the period close, it becomes a much simpler example. And so Jeff and I were with Corey West, who's our CAO. We're, you know, showing this to him. And just from a content perspective, and I said, hey, look at this, you know, -2, right? We're going to start the close process 2 days before, the, you know, day 0. And then he starts, whoa, wait a minute. We have -3. It's like, well, okay, but hold on, wait, hey, Corey, but hold on. You know what? You can actually go. We actually are on 2 because I know we started on 3, but now we're on 2 because we've already closed several subledgers, receivables, all the way to payables. But because we're on the second -2, we're going to close assets, and we're going to go through the process of closing it, and then now we're done with it. So he felt much better. Okay, good. All right. I know we're -3. That's when we start. But your demonstration is, you know, realistic. He doesn't want, you know, to talk about stuff that is not realistic. Well, certainly from a close perspective, you have all this ability to drill down into information. You've closed all your subledgers, and you want to drill down into maybe journals. And in the journals, you have all these things that you might have to do, things that are sitting, waiting for me to approve. You can approve right here if you want to, approve, reject, inspect further that particular journal if you want to drill down into those details. If you have allocations, a lot of organizations have allocations. What's nice about this, you can actually visualize those allocations if you want. So you start with a cost pool, and then you want to actually allocate it out to a variety of different cost centers using a variety of different drivers. And so we actually help visualize that so that you understand the impact. As more importantly, your cost centers understand the impact. As what is this? Oh, it's based on this stuff. Great, got it. So we want to provide that visibility. That's very important. You know, you certainly could drill into reports if you want to, do all sorts of crazy stuff with that. And you can do a lot of crazy stuff with that. Go into Excel and do all sorts of intimate analysis with that. Now, from a close process perspective, you have a variety of different tasks. I got to do this, that, and the other. And if you want to visualize that from a Gantt perspective, you can understand the relationships between this task cannot start until that one ends, or you can start this when that one starts, but you can't end it until the other one ends. So you can do all sorts of, you can do all of that. And in addition to this, these tasks will also allow you to embed desktop procedures, instructions, so that you understand clearly what is the step that I need to do, as well as capture working papers that satisfy that particular task. So it's really meant to facilitate and orchestrate the close process. Matt mentioned tax provisioning, right? So if you have time, in this case, you know, the ETR is really high because we haven't yet implemented, as an example, this customer hasn't yet implemented tax provisioning, and they're going to do that so they can get a better handle on their tax rates. And so you can drill into that and visualize that. You're able to actually not only calculate your tax provision, collect provisions from your subsidiaries, as well as do country-by-country reporting, which, again, Matt touched upon. And so now that you've done all that, you know, you drag and drop all that kind of stuff. Well, at some point, you want to do some form of analytics and some analysis, and in this case, you've got a bunch of reconciliations that you need to do. You want to visualize that. You want to understand where you're at in the process. And so I have 721 reconciliations that are complete out of 939, and I noticed that there's some warnings, right? So there's some reconciliations that are in warning state based on some conditions that you've specified. And so I drill into that, and it happens to be all those ones that I'm going to inspect SG&A. And so here I'm able to actually do some analysis and discover what's going on. And I discover and I find out that really what the problem was, I had, you know, the journal entry hasn't been entered. I tell Jack to do that. He gets a instant messaging, contextual dialogue, right, associated to this business event. He does his thing, and we move on through the process. Well, ultimately, this is going to drive you towards, you know, doing some sort of form of reporting. And so we go into our reporting analysis capabilities, and I'm going to do my 10Q if you happen to be a public company. We help facilitate that process. And I noticed that as I went into this module, I just got a notification, and the notification happens to be about SOX, control certification. So I drill into that, and so we are able to harness and capture that 302 if that's if it's necessary if you're a public company. And so we're able to do that, and we notice that our internal controls have been strengthened because we actually implemented a solution like our Oracle, a little sales pitch there. And then you can look at the details, summary, those sorts of things. And now let's go back to the 10Q as an example. And so, Matt talked about this. We've done a great job with creating and capturing numbers. We've done a great job taking those numbers and visualizing them in some meaningful fashion. And now we also allow you to actually then put color and narrative around these fantastic numbers. And so we orchestrate that process. We can take a document, segment them by author, have a bunch of workflow associated with it so that we can guarantee the quality of that output. And so here at the tail end, we've captured some dialogue, some comments around this. I noticed that there's something there that we want to talk about. We can scroll, we can add verbiage, all that sort of thing. And I could say this is great, cash flow looks perfect. I can say this is wonderful, I can publish this. And this is just relative, this example is relative to a 10Q, it could be a 10K, it could be a budget book, a reporting package, it could be a variety of different things that it's really typically a report that has lots of numbers, lots of graphs, and lots of words. We can help orchestrate that. And then ultimately I've published this, and then I got a fantastic report that goes to whomever makes sense. That's it, thank you.
Awesome, Michael.
That's why my kids wake me up on Christmas Day, by the way. They love this. And they clap too. It's kind of cool.
Wow, okay, so period close, working together, both ERP and EPM in that unified experience. Fantastic. Finance has always been a huge fan of Hyperion as an example, Matt, right? A lot of our core users have been over there over the years coming from finance, but I know there's been a lot of work afoot to move outside into other lines of business beyond finance. Could you share with us some of that work outside of core?
Sure. So, as you've seen from like Yuri's presentation, it's not good enough just to work inside the context of finance and produce a budget that makes sense to finance. You have to produce a plan and a budget and a strategy that makes sense for the entire organization. So what we've been striving to do is to expand that reach and to help you work with your partners inside of the business. And one of the first areas we work with is typically IT. Normally reports up through finance, so it's a natural affinity from that standpoint. And we've produced a series of applications that really help IT plan their activity, plan their work, plan their projects that they want to do, but also look at things like shared services and chargeback and visibility, and how we can explain to the organization, here's what IT is going to charge you for providing this particular service. You may then move to broader shared services and again provide that transparency and visibility in terms of here's exactly the cost of providing these facilities and what it means to you as an overall business. So that's one area where we expanded into. The other area is really dealing with more strategy. When you define your 5-year strategy, you need to involve what we consider the wisdom of the masses. How can you bring enough people into that equation so we can have meaningful conversations? And one of the areas that we spend a lot of time and energy in is actually a connectivity with HR in this notion of strategic workforce planning. So what we currently have today is a strategy that we want to grow the organization. We can then look at our current supply, our current resources that we have available to us, and what is the gap between those resources that we have as to where we want to go. And what are the activities that we need to do in order to address that gap, in order to address the demand that we're going to place on the workforce? Is it retraining? Is it contingent workforce? Is it rehiring? Is it various different strategies that we have in place? But it enables finance to really have conversations with HR in a meaningful way that brings them into the equation and makes them part and parcel of that overall conversation. So a lot of what we're doing in the EPM world is really trying to develop pre-built content, best practices that we've seen from various organizations that we've worked with, and make them available to you so you can have these broader conversations with other lines of business, into sales, into marketing, into IT, into HR, and really try to make the plans, the budgets, the strategies that you're putting in place meaningful for those organizations.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. I always love it when you talk about the term leverage the wisdom beyond finance, because my first thought is, it sort of begs the question, is there, as an ex-accountant, is there wisdom beyond finance? But the idea behind it is make it easy enough so that we can decentralize and push it deeper into the organization and solve for those very specific departmental challenges using our core technology and aligning it back into our financial plan. Now, when we think about moving out just beyond core finance from a capabilities perspective, I also think of things like supply chain, human capital management, CX, and a host of other areas. From the office of the CFO, these are critically important as well. But in the office of the CFO, we need to have a certain perspective of these different activities. Mm-hmm. Roddy, could you share with us what your team has been working on with respect to all of those other areas of concern?
So, absolutely. The way that actually we design the applications is not actually one module at a time. So when I architect the whole solution from the get-go, we always believe that we need to have one single data model for all the different functions, whether it's HCM, finance, supply chain, customer relationship management. So the advantage for us there is much more unified in the way that everything is natively integrated. So one copy of your suppliers that is used everywhere in the functions. One copy of your customers, one copy of your enterprise structure, your chart of accounts, your LB, your legal entities, and so on. One copy of employees. So you don't have to deal with master data management, synchronization between all these different modules. So what does that mean at the end of the day? So it actually helps us to build a lot of those business insights from many different persona standpoint, across different lines of business. So some of the things that Michael showed earlier is really actually based on a very simplified, unified standard data model. So we'll be able to see a lot of that real time from the finance back into, for example, kind of want to understand the correlation between my financial performance and my workforce productivity. Everything is actually behind the scene tied. I can actually drill down real time. I don't need to actually have somebody to move into a warehouse, have a bunch of people trying to correlate that, clean up the data. That's kind of how people typically did that. Now, something a little bit more complicated. So the whole concept from CX all the way to finance, lead in marketing, turning into an quote in the CPQ system, turning into an order, turning into revenue, collections, cash, and so on and so forth. Very complex. Many times actually trying to understand the correlation, the efficiency across all of these things as a CFO is extremely difficult. Good luck that you can get actually your IT to build a report like that. By the time that it's done, probably the information is stale. So what we're able to do, because everything is unified in one single architecture, completely actually synchronized across all the different reference data, we'll be able to track really complex life cycles between kind of these highly correlated activities. And this is the basis of a lot of kind of the information-driven design. So you see kind of the dashboards with all the information. It's not limited to one product, one department. The cross-functional disciplines is really the basis of a lot of the analytics that we built in the product.
Thank you, Rondi. You know, a lot of the terms we heard over the course of the week, and as well as from Yuri, things like, you know, AI, machine learning, robotic process automation. I mean, a lot of amazing capabilities that are emerging, but could you sort of make it more real for us? What do you see showing up in the applications in terms of leveraging these cutting-edge or breakthrough technologies? How are we going to see those in the office of the CFO?
Absolutely. So I think cloud is an excellent platform for people to simplify, standardize, and automate a lot of the things that you guys are doing in disparate on-premise systems. But for us in development, we're always looking a little bit ahead. The next generation applications design, we always believe that everything is going to be very data-driven. So not necessarily just the data that you own, but even kind of like a lot of the data outside, some of the anonymized third-party data that Oracle, for example, have an Oracle Data Cloud that aggregates billions of consumer profiles and business profiles. All this amount of data, how do you actually make any sense of that? There's a lot of machine learning technologies that we use and data scientists just to synthesize all the information. And generally, they are driving two different aspects of innovations in there. Now, one part there is what we call adaptive insights. It's essentially adaptive intelligence. It's essentially the AI part of that. Based on these big data and the machine learning algorithms trying to drive recommendations in different scenarios. So give you a context of a cash management example. So if you're a cash manager trying to determine what you're going to do with your free cash, okay, so should I actually invest in short-term investment, long-term investment, or maybe it's better to pay my suppliers at the moment, maybe I can actually negotiate a better discount with those suppliers that actually may actually really need the cash right away. But how do I know actually which suppliers that I need to actually offer that dynamic discount to, or should I actually just use my intuition, or should I just use data that I own about the performance of these suppliers, as well as kind of the financial health, all the information on the web, all the information from some of the third parties like Dun & Bradstreet, Thomson Reuters, all these things got aggregated, we process through machine learning, and give the cash manager the best recommendation. Same applies to collections, delinquency detection, prediction. That's just the beginning. There are many, many different ways that we're using machine learning concepts, the big data you own, also third party to drive applications design. Now, this one aspect is recommendation. The other side is around automation. A lot of you have talked about robotic process automation. Again, leveraging machine learning technologies to try to simplify and automate, eliminate a lot of the manual processes, like expense audit is one perfect example. So you can actually automate a lot of that, building the rules, building the learning over time, a lot of the transaction processing model. But the part that actually I get more and more excited about is the concept of a continuous close. The idea that no longer that you need to spend days going through a lot of the manual process, reconciling data between different systems, different parts of your transaction flow, but be able to use machine learning technologies to automate all of that. So you get the information pro forma close every single minute. And that's kind of how you should be using the data to manage your business rather than spending all your resources trying to go through the mechanical steps. So, and again, this is just the beginning. I think cloud enables us to provide the platform to introduce many of these next-gen technology to our customers in a pace that clearly was not possible in an on-prem world.
Thank you, Rondi, and thank you, Matt and Michael, as well. It's been a very interesting session. We heard about a lot of the reasons today why Oracle Cloud for the Office of the CFO. I loved your story about rapid innovation. Matt, what you're bringing to the table in terms of that breadth of solution. Michael, I didn't want you to demo initially, but I'm glad that you did. Don't take that as you're going to demo again, maybe next year. But again, thank you guys for all the wonderful insights. Thank you for the demo as well. I think we are about out of time. I want to wrap this up very quickly. So a couple of housekeeping items. Many of you have already been out to the Innovation Showcase. It is still open today, so continue to meet and network with our partners and talk to our Oracle product experts out here as well. The demonstrations that you saw on the iPad, they're available for you to go out and drill into those a little bit more deeply. So pretty exciting stuff.